Yo, nah, you're not ready for this one. Joe McCann just got handed his passport back like it's nothing. And TMZ is out here spinning this man into a victim while Ashlee Jenae's family is still grieving. The same dude who sat in a hospital for 11 hours before calling her mama is now boarding a plane back to US soil like he just won something. And TMZ? They really thought we wouldn't catch this manipulation in broad daylight? Before we start, this is Melanin Scope Media. Hit like, subscribe, don't miss what's coming. Joe McCann, the crypto fund manager fiancé of influencer Ashley Robinson, known online as Ashlee Jenae, has been cleared by Tanzanian authorities to return to American soil, with his American passport officially handed back. The news broke May 8, 2026, dropped as yet another TMZ exclusive, their fourth piece favoring Joe in less than a week. Joe really thought slipping back through customs would close this chapter quietly. Now let's pull up the receipts that show exactly why this clearance isn't what TMZ wants you to think it is. Let's go straight to the source. In the TMZ exclusive published May 8, 2026, Joe's lawyer Edward Andrew Polczyk told the outlet directly, authorities in Tanzania returned Joe's American passport to him, after he remained in Tanzania for nearly a month while cooperating with authorities. When I read this, I had to do a double take. Bro really framed a month of being trapped as voluntary cooperation. That's the dumbest flex I've ever heard. Then Edward goes harder, telling TMZ, this was not a newly issued passport from the State Department. It was Joe's actual passport that he voluntarily handed over to authorities the day after Ashley's passing. Yo, that word voluntarily is doing Olympic-level gymnastics in that sentence. Nobody hands their passport over voluntarily the day after their fiancé dies unless they are being told to. That line right there, that's where Edward lost the plot. Now flip back to May 5, 2026, the day of Ashley's funeral, conveniently, when Joe finally broke his silence in another TMZ exclusive. He wrote, I will love her until my last breath. Nothing in this world makes sense without her. Bro waited 4 weeks of silence and dropped a love letter the same day she got buried. Nah, you can't write that script and expect us to take you seriously. Then on May 7, 2026, TMZ ran with this one. Ashlee Jenae's fiancé Joe McCann communicated with her mom, allegedly left him on read. When I saw that headline, I was like, you really came for the grieving mother. That's the cleanest smeared job I've ever seen disguised as journalism. Bro said what? Yolanda left him on read, maybe because she had reasons we're about to break down. Pull up the Fortune piece dropped April 16, 2026, where they exposed Joe as the founder of Asymmetric Financial, a crypto hedge fund that allegedly lost up to 90% of its value before this trip. Fortune wrote, Robinson, who goes by Ashlee Jenae online, took up with McCann in November 2024. When I read that timeline, my jaw was on the floor. CoinDesk, also April 16th, dropped this. Police say Robinson, 31, died by suicide after a heated dispute with McCann at the Zanzibar resort, but her family disputes that conclusion. That word dispute is doing a lot of heavy lifting. When I read this, I had to rewind and read it 3 times. Now let's connect the dots. That clearance? Dropped exactly 30 days after Ashley passed on April 9, 2026, and that timing isn't random. Tanzanian law lets authorities hold a person of interest way longer than the US does without formal charges, but eventually the clock runs out on detainment when the file isn't ready to indict. So Joe didn't get cleared, he got the standard release that always happens at the end of an active investigation window. Bro really thought would confuse passport returned with case closed. That's terrible legal literacy. Brew. That love letter, posted the exact same day as the funeral he wasn't welcome at. The family allegedly told him to stay away, and he chose that moment to flood social media with grief content. That's not coincidence. That's a publicist's calendar. Any smart person would have waited a week. But Joe's team isn't playing the long game, they are playing the algorithm. That Fortune expose dropped 7 days after Ashley's death, and that's when the crypto world started whispering about Asymmetric Financial's catastrophic 2025 losses. The hedge fund troubles, the engagement trip, the Zanzibar resort booking, all of it stacked up at the exact moment a 90% portfolio collapse was getting reported in financial circles. So you mean to tell me a man whose fund is hemorrhaging takes his fiancée on an extravagant Tanzania getaway, and she ends up dead? Joe really thought nobody would connect those dots. His lawyer, Edward Andrew Polczyk, pull up his client list. This is the same attorney tied to high-profile political defense work, including representation linked to the Trump orbit. That's not the lawyer you hire if you're an innocent grieving fiancé. That's the lawyer you hire when you need a media war machine. His relationship with Ashlee started November 2020, according to her own Instagram. That's barely 17 months before she died on what was supposed to be both her 31st birthday and engagement celebration. A whirlwind crypto money romance ending in a foreign country with no witnesses except hotel staff. That's the move of someone with bad luck or something way darker. The left on read narrative reframes a grieving mother as the villain on the same week Joe needed public sympathy to fly home. That's not coincidence. That's a calculated character assassination scheduled 3 days before his passport release. That's when you know Joe doesn't have real advisors. He has propaganda specialists. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Let's zoom into word from the May 8th TMZ piece, voluntarily. That single word is a forensic fingerprint. Lawyers don't accidentally pick that adverb. Voluntarily creates legal cover for Joe if civil suits ever drop, because if his passport surrender wasn't voluntary, that's evidence of suspicion. Edward planted that word like a landmine for future depositions. And TMZ ran it without flagging it. Joe really thought slipping that past us was clever? That's amateur hour. Now check this. The headline reads cleared to return to U.S. but 6 paragraphs deep, the article admits authorities haven't said publicly if Joe has been officially cleared. Read those two statements next to each other. The headline says cleared. The body says not cleared. That's not journalism. That's a publicist writing the top half and a lawyer writing the bottom half. If Joe had half a brain, he would have noticed the contradiction before letting his team push it live. Now zoom into the phrase undisclosed location on U.S. soil. Undisclosed. Why? Joe lives in Portland. That's already public record per KGW. An innocent grieving fiancé would announce, "I'm going home to mourn." A man under active investigation hides his landing zone. That single word undisclosed is the loudest tell in the entire article. It's embarrassing how much Joe gave away with one syllable. Now check Joe's old crypto interview body language. In his pre-tragedy podcast appearances talking Solana Memicans, his cadence was clinical, controlled, performative, the rehearsed delivery of a man who lives in optics. Compare that to his current PR move, a written love letter, NO video, NO press conference, NO direct address. The ONE thing Crypto Joe was famous for, talking to a camera, is the ONE thing Grieving Joe refuses to do. That's not grief. That's a man who knows cameras catch micro-expressions courts can subpoena. And the timing of the comment section on TMZ's article? The pinned top comment. After a month-long investigation, it's time to accept the case at face value. Posted 3 hours before the article gained traction, but newer comments sit beneath it. That's an editorial pin, not organic engagement. Somebody's hand is on the scale. Joe's team thought we wouldn't notice the comment hierarchy is engineered. That's the problem with Joe. He doesn't read between the lines, and neither does his audience apparently. Now let's see how the rest of the media is framing this. TMZ framed it as exoneration, wrapping a procedural release in language that screams innocent man freed. But Complex framed the same situation completely differently, anchoring their coverage to Ashlee's family's suspicion rather than Joe's cooperation. Same facts, different newsrooms, wildly different headlines. That tells you everything about WHO is whispering in Who's A. People magazine spun it cautious and clinical. Police have not shared recent updates about the status of the investigation. Notice they didn't run with cleared, because people's lawyers know cleared isn't legally accurate. That's a major outlet refusing to repeat TMZ's framing. That should tell you everything. Fox News framed it through the BBC's reporting that Joe was being interviewed as a witness and not accused of any wrongdoing. Witness language, not suspect language. But witnesses don't get held for a month in a foreign country. They go home in 48 hours. That framing has holes wider than the Indian Ocean. KGW Portland, Joe's local station, refused to soften it, calling Ashlee's death under investigation. They live in his city. They have nothing to gain from playing nice. And they are not saying cleared. Read that twice. Now some Joe defenders are saying if Tanzania released him, the case is over. But those are the same people who thought the David case was over when Lapt released him before charges, and we all saw how that turned out. Joe's supporters are reaching trying to defend this. The receipts don't lie. Some media outlets trying to spin this for Joe, but the contradictions inside their own articles expose the play. But here's what nobody is saying. The mainstream narrative wants you to believe this is a tragic story about a grieving fiancé caught in foreign red tape. Outlets keep recycling that high-flying crypto trader angle like it's a sympathy card. Here's what they won't tell you. This isn't really a missing persons case or suspicious death case in the traditional sense. This is a crypto money case wearing a tragedy costume. And that's why TMZ is bought and paid for. Follow the money, and the entire machine makes sense. Asymmetric Financial, Joe's crypto fund, was reportedly down up to 90% from its peak in 2025. That's not a rough quarter. That's a fund in cardiac arrest. Joe's entire financial future depends on getting back to U.S. soil, restoring his public face, rejoining the crypto talking head circuit, and unlocking the next round of LP capital. If he's stuck in Tanzania even another 60 days, his fund is dead. There is no Asymmetric Financial without Joe McCann standing on American soil with a sympathetic narrative. Joe is a captive of his own balance sheet, and the industry needs him to win this PR war or 100 crypto bros lose their bag too. That's why TMZ keeps running these exclusives. That's why his lawyer is the same caliber as a former Trump orbit attorney. That's why the publicist is A1 caliber. This isn't a defense team. This is a hedge fund PR division protecting an asset class. The people moving money behind Joe McCann needed him cleared by mid-May for industry events, for fund reporting season, for LP communications. Joe is a puppet, and the crypto industry is pulling strings. And here's the deeper layer nobody's saying. Ashlee Jenae was the public relations vehicle for Joe's reputation rehab in 2024 to 2025. Look at the Instagram timeline. Right when his fund started hemorrhaging in late 2024, he started dating an influencer with massive audience trust. Engagement. Tanzania birthday trip. Public couple content. That's not a coincidence. That's reputation management through proximity. And now that the asset class needs him out of Tanzania, the same machine that built up the romance is now smearing the grieving mother to clear the runway. That's not love. That's leverage. Joe's whole crypto persona is manufactured, and it's falling apart in real time. The Solana evangelist. The memecoin philosopher. The hedge fund visionary. All of it was a brand built on charisma and confidence, both of which evaporate the moment a 31-year-old woman is dead and her family is screaming for justice. He's playing checkers while Ashlee's parents are playing chess. Every move Joe makes, the love letter, the undisclosed location, the voluntary passport surrender, is predictable. He's already lost the court of public opinion. Now he's just trying to outrun it back to American jurisdiction, where his lawyer has more leverage. And that's the truth they won't tell you. The reason this case won't die is because it's not just about Ashlee Jenae anymore. It's about exposing how the crypto industry weaponizes mainstream media to protect its biggest faces when they get caught in scandals. So what happens next? Mark my words, when Joe lands at that undisclosed location, he's gonna face TWO American realities his Tanzania lawyer can't shield him from, a U.S. independent autopsy and U.S. discovery rules. Watch what happens next. When the independent autopsy results commissioned by the family drop in the next 30 to 60 days, the entire self-harm narrative is going to combust. Yolanda and Harry are not flying home an unburied body for nothing. That's a chess move only families with a second opinion in their back pocket make. When that toxicology and that forensic report contradict the Tanzanian initial ruling, Joe's PR machine is gonna look desperate screaming into the void. The silence from Ashlee's family right now? That's gonna hurt Joe more than any diss track ever could. If the family files a wrongful death civil suit on U.S. soil, which is way easier than international criminal extradition, Joe's gonna get destroyed in discovery. Civil cases have lower evidence thresholds, force depositions under oath, and unlock financial records. That hedge fund? Those Tanzania resort receipts? Those text messages with Yolanda? All of it becomes subpoenaed. Joe is not ready for what's coming if Harry and Yolanda decide to take the civil litigation route. We saw what civil discovery did to other high-profile defendants in similar cases. Joe doesn't stand a chance in a deposition room without his publicist whispering edits. Looking at the bigger picture, this case is gonna become the moment the crypto influencer industrial complex cracks. 5 years from now, people will look back at Asymmetric Financial as a canary in the coal mine for crypto bro reputational implosions. LPs will start asking harder questions. Conference organizers will quietly drop Joe from speaker lineups. Solana Twitter will go silent on his name. The hotel surveillance footage from Zui Zanzibar, and trust me, that footage is coming, is going to circulate in legal filings, media leaks, and every podcast that covers true crime. Joe is watching the culture move on without him while he's still trying to log back into Twitter. That's not relevance. That's a corpse of a career walking. And here's the kicker. Tanzania never officially cleared him. That phrase authorities haven't said publicly if Joe has been officially cleared is gonna haunt every TMZ retraction request, every brand deal pitch, every podcast invite. Joe's name is permanently tied to ongoing investigation until Tanzania says otherwise. 5, 10, 15 years from now, that Wikipedia paragraph isn't getting deleted. Joe's relevance died on April 9, 2026. He just hasn't read the obituary yet. Whatever happens, the autopsy, the civil suit, the surveillance footage, the comeback attempt, one thing's clear, Joe McCann already lost. He just doesn't know it yet, because his publicist hasn't told him. If you made it this far, you already know this is Melanin Scope Media, where we don't follow narratives, we break them. Hit like, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because what's coming next? Trust me, they don't want you to hear it.